Arrow Season 3, Episode 30 starts right now. I'm your host, Brandon Davis, joined today by Jamie Jurek.
Good morning.
Aaron Perrine.
Oh boy, we have such a spirited conversation in store for you guys. What's up?
Jenna Anderson.
Hey everybody, I feel so bad for the people listening to us just in audio because they missed, I think, Beatty's remix of the theme song towards the end there. That was excellent. That was so good.
That's right. Phase zero. It's just gonna be built into the intro from now on, and I'll just keep adding it. We got a big show today. We got some Marvel news to talk about. We're gonna do some San Diego Comic-Con recap. Marvel Studios wasn't there, but they were. We got the Marvels trailer drop this week. We got a Spider-Man 4 rumor from the people involved. What's going on? And we got a WandaVision steelbook that nobody's going to buy. And then in the second half of the show, we're talking all about Secret Invasion. The finale is out now. All 6 episodes of Secret Invasion are available. So if you don't want spoilers for Secret Invasion, step off at the commercial break or whatever kind of break it is. I don't even know if there's a commercial, but I just sit here and talk all day. So let's just start off with San Diego Comic-Con before some Spider-Man 4 stuff that we have to talk about. But San Diego Comic-Con was very interesting this year. It was honestly pretty good. It was still very crowded. The exhibit hall was packed, more so than usual, I'd say. And I think that's because people were not in panels. But it also felt kind of weird that there wasn't this thing that people were looking forward to all weekend the same way there usually is. Even if you're not a Marvel fan, there's constantly an air about Comic-Con that people are, Marvel Studios is going to bring the house down on Saturday night. Warner Brothers is going to kick off Saturday morning, and we're going to go from there. There just wasn't that. There were still some very good panels though, a lot of which aren't Marvel panels. So they'll be on comicbook.com, but not on Phase Zero, unfortunately. But one of them was a Marvel special panel designing the X-Men, and they showed footage for X-Men 97. Now, there's descriptions of this footage on the site, but I'm just here to tell you guys about it if you're listening to us or watching us as a podcast. The footage was pretty awesome. A little bit anticlimactic for Comic-Con footage. Usually there's a huge reveal or something like that. The big reveal in the footage was kind of the team assembling behind Cyclops, which was very cool. But you guys have seen the Comic-Con footage. I mean, what did you guys think of this?
I thought it was really cool. As a huge fan of the animated series, I just seeing the animation style translated into modern day, it looks so crisp and so clean. So this definitely got me more on board with the show, even more than I already was. And there's a bit that Cyclops does that's very cool with his heat beams. So I was very, very thrilled by that.
Is it spoilers if we talk about Comic-Con footage? If we give specific details? I don't think so, right? It's Comic-Con footage.
The descriptions are online. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, quick little mild maybe baby spoiler for the 5 minutes of X-Men footage, but Cyclops lands himself by using his beam his eye beam at the ground while falling out of the ship that gets destroyed by a Sentinel. Am I remembering that correctly? It's pretty dope. It's pretty awesome. And the animation, it's not so new that it doesn't feel like the X-Men the animated series, but it is just today's quality of animation. I've started rewatching the X-Men animated series, and the animation is certainly from the 90s. And this animation is certainly from 2023. It looks just clean. It looks just very good. Jamie, what do you think of it?
Oh, I'm so hyped. I mean, the animation alone is because it looks good, but it also feels true to the original. And that is all I could hope for. Because there are certain types of new animation that I can't stand. And so that made me really happy. Looks like a good team. My girl Rogue, I'm so happy. Rogue is my girl. And I'm so happy that we're getting her just in that version. The animated series version is my favorite, and I'm really excited about it.
I love how Wolverine and Cyclops seem to just still have maintained their little buddy rivalry thing that's going on there. Aaron, what did you think of all this X-Men 97 stuff?
I'm really struck by how much the freaking voice cast still has the voices absolutely down. I close my eyes and I can taste the Cookie Crisp cereal. It's insane that they still sound that good. That all the voices, Lenore Zan, who voices Rogue, she's delightful. I don't know if she either TJ or somebody mentioned to her that we missed her on like her birthday on one of these, and she was like, "Oh, that was very lovely," and I'm like, "Rogue, listen to our podcast." So that's good. I am fascinated by too how it seems to be taking place like after everything that's happened in like the original, and it really does feel like a continuation of that, which is you've invested a ton of time into X-Men animated series. That should probably really fill you up joy.
Oh yeah,
10 out of 10 Storm's hair.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh man, it picks up with Gyrick in prison, and they need to work with him, and it's very interesting that that's the deal that's being cut. Xavier's not in the picture right out of the gate, but we'll see. I don't know if and when the Comic-Con footage will ever be released. I wish it was. I wish we could all watch it over and over again. I wish it was online. But I think this show is still probably a little over a year away. So we will see more X-Men 97 in the near future. Marvel Studios, again, was not supposed to be at Comic-Con, right? That's what they said. But they surprised us with that X-Men 97 footage. And they also had posters. They dropped a poster for the Marvels, a Comic-Con exclusive poster. And then they also had the costumes on the floor. All 4 days had different costumes. I want to say 4. I don't know if preview night and day 1 had different costumes, but we have those on the Phase Zero YouTube channel in shorts form. They had costumes from Loki season 2. Sylvie's new costume, that thing has been through hell. I mean, that thing is being held together by paper clips. It looks like she has been literally, like there are paper clips built into the costume. I think she has been on the run. So that looked really cool. There's also this crazy, it looks like a Navy diving suit with like a huge pack on the back, a TVA suit though. And I something tells me it might be deep space and not deep ocean. So that's kind of cool. Loki had like a whole fancy suit out there. And there was one other suit that like, it just kind of looked like a Dharma jumpsuit, a TVA sort of Dharma jumpsuit, like a Roger Workman type of suit. I'm not sure who's going to be wearing that one. A Hunter B-15 had a suit out there. On one of the days. They had the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 stuff. They had the Marvels costumes. The Photon costume was so cool, and you could see this in the video on the Phase Zero channel. But all the costume designers in today's day and age on these superhero films, when they're kind of those like spandexy, like leathery type numbers. So the Photon suit is all black and white. But if you just do flat black and white, they look crap on camera. So they always have a texture built into them. I mean, this is best shown in like Henry Cavill's Superman. Like everybody knows that suit has like a texture. I love that costume. But those sorts of textures are in like all of these costumes now. Obviously, some stand out more than others. But if you look really closely at the Photon suit, the texture that's built into it to kind of reflect light and give it some texture on camera is DNA strands. So it's like the powers built, it's kind of representing how her, she got her powers in WandaVision. It's kind of just now in her DNA. I thought that was really clever. But the Miss Marvel suit was hands down the most colorful. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the standout stuff for Marvel Studios at Comic-Con. Obviously, they did not have a Hall H panel. They dropped a trailer for the Marvels, I believe, on Thursday night at midnight it was. We'll talk about that shortly. But we should also talk a little bit of comics, because there was some big comics news out of Comic-Con for Marvel as well. So I figure we should work that into the show a little bit.
Yeah, so there were a lot of updates. I'm just going to kind of summarize the big ones. So they announced the new Punisher. If you've been following the most recent Punisher run, Frank Castle is off of the board. I'll just say that much. And so Joe Garrison, who is a new character who's a retired S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, is going to be the Punisher in a comic going forward. They also, this technically I don't think was announced at Comic-Con, but it was announced like the day after, so I'm going to count it. They announced Gang War, which is this big street level event that is going to happen next year that has both Spider-Man, Luke Cage, Daredevil, She-Hulk, Spider-Woman, etc. So that's going to be very all-encompassing. I'm happy She-Hulk's in it, so very curious to see how that goes. And then a lot of other stuff is a huge spoiler for X-Men related stuff and is kind of a spoiler in hindsight for today's Hellfire Gala, so I won't go into the specifics of that, but there is the Miss Marvel, the First Mutant. They showed more stuff for that, and yeah, it's an interesting week to be an X-Men fan, I will say that much.
Yo, Tony Stark and Emma Frost are married?
Yeah.
What is the consensus on that?
I find it funny. Like it works in a weird way, but like I almost find it as just like a PR marriage at the end of the day. I don't know.
That's what I was asking. Like, is this a marriage of love or a marriage of convenience?
It's a marriage of like business almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see them like having a good time. You know what I'm saying? I can see it.
that would be quite the yeah. I'm not. Nope. All right. We all thought it. Jamie, I want to shout out your Ilsa Faust shirt.
Thank you, my girl.
Rebecca Ferguson, the GOAT.
My number one. Love her. Moving on.
I have a quick question for Jenna on the comics front, real quick, because I think I was very out of touch on the news cycle while I was at Comic-Con, because it was only Jim, Richard, and myself. So that meant we were just on the floor doing and just quite busy, because we didn't bring everybody we were going to, because Comic-Con did not turn out to be as busy as it would have been. But that meant the people that were there ended up just piling on more work. So I missed a lot of the news. Is Greg Capullo coming back to Marvel to do a book?
Kind of, sort of. He's doing art. I didn't even know he looked into that, because there's something that he's doing. That story I did not look into. I saw the headlines of, but he's doing something.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that. There's so much Comic-Con news I have to catch up on.
Yeah.
But it was a great year for comics at Comic-Con, which was really cool. All the comic creators were super happy. All their lines were super long, and honestly, fans seemed to have a good time. But now let's get back to the movies here. That's mostly what we do here on Phase Zero. So this one's pretty big.
Yeah. So Thomas Hayden Church, star of one of my favorite films, Sideways, but also Spider-Man 3. He's promoting Peacock's Twisted Metal, and he stars with Anthony Mackie. And so the thing is, Spider-Man 4, he said there's always been some kind of, I've heard rumors that Sam Raimi was going to do another with Tobey, and if that happens, I would probably campaign to maybe at least do a cameo. This is cool, but also I really think he's just talking about the internet rumors that we've all been hearing for years. I would not get your hopes up about a Spider-Man 4 directed by Sam Raimi. Of course, if amazing, but I don't think so. What do you guys think?
I had the same exact thought you did, but the optimist in me wants to think he knows something. But I don't think there are plans right now.
If he does show up, I want him to say the same exact delivery of like, Peter, it's me, Flint Marko. Do you remember? Because I love that line so much from No Way Home. His delivery is like top notch.
I don't know. Like, hope springs eternal with this thing. This is the movie river that will not die now. This is our detox now. That's like the white whale everybody's just chasing. And I can't believe that after the last couple of years of stuff, that there was not a plan of some kind to do at least that, just to get the nostalgia dollars out of everybody, because everybody would have been so thrilled about just seeing Tobey Maguire in anything like approaching that anymore. Because he was in Babylon last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that last year? Yeah. I'm like, what is time? But yeah, it would be fun. That would be fun. But I just can't imagine, like, can you imagine how much you'd have to give Sam Raimi for him to come back and do this all again? Like, just do it all again. You have to be like, I want a shrimp cocktail in my trailer every day. I want a recliner from the literal same one. I want my car to be one of the Spider-Men in this movie. Like, you know,
give it to him.
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Give him whatever.
See, my thing is, like, if this movie happened, I want it to be the original pitch that like has been notorious for decades of like, I want John Malkovich as Vulture. I want Anne Hathaway as like quasi Black Cat. Like, all of the stuff that they were going to do sounds so wild. It's it is the white whale of like, if that actually became a reality, it would be almost too good.
That would be dope. Honestly, I could see this movie happening, and I'm gonna say something controversial, but I think it's honest and I think it's accurate. It's interesting how the momentum has swung back to be in Sony's favor over Marvel Studios. Spider-Man is hands down the most valuable Marvel asset right now. The MCU does not have a character close to as marketable as Spider-Man. And I thought of this the other day because I posted a video. This is also on the Phase Zero channel, asking, I don't know if I ever brought this up on the show, but if there was like a new Avengers movie coming out next week, who would be, like, Infinity War had Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. Those were the big three. And yes, there were tons of supporting characters and everybody loved, and that's why Infinity War and Endgame were so successful. But Iron Man and Captain America were very much the center of that. They were the people moving the story forward. You had plenty of other people. You had Black Panther, you had Scarlet Witch, you had Hawkeye, you had Black Widow, tons of very important characters. But those were the two. Like, those are the two that Disney and Marvel knew were going to sell the most tickets. Those were the two that the story really, really was built around, and they had to be the protagonists of the story, or antagonists, since I would say Infinity War is a Thanos movie, but whatever. Spider-Man is hands down the character that still does that. I would say the next in line is probably like Thor, Doctor Strange, and Scarlet Witch. But those three, maybe except for Thor, are not nearly as mainstream as Spider-Man is, in my opinion, and Tom Holland. I just think that the momentum, like it used to be like, all right, well, if you want to make a successful Spider-Man movie after the Amazing Spider-Man movies were poorly received, you got to give them back to Marvel because the Avengers and the MCU are the hottest thing in the world right now. Everybody here, we all still love the MCU. We're all still watching everything that comes out. But it has just become like, I mean, there's no denying that less people are watching it. They're releasing Secret Invasion on Hulu. The movies aren't making as much money as they did. I mean, that's across the board, but that's also true of Marvel. Spider-Man No Way Home is the second highest grossing movie since, or the hands down highest grossing Marvel movie since Endgame. So it's interesting to see it swing back. So I could totally see Sony being like, you know what? We're going to do our, what does Miles say? I'm going to do my own thing. Like I could totally see Sony doing that and being like, we're going to make our Spider-Man movie. Now I could see them also still working with Marvel and Tom Holland Spider-Man still operating in the MCU and whatever future that holds and whatever Spider-Man 4 with Tom looks like. But I could very well see either the Amazing Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 4 with Tobey happening. And I, for one, would absolutely love to see both of those. So if you're Sony, it's like, well, maybe we should make these movies.
I do want to say, though, I think one thing to be in danger of is that right now, for a long time, this nostalgia was fueling things. But I think now with the box office of Indy and the box office of The Flash, I think we're getting out of that. We're getting out of this revival and nostalgia era. And because we got Tobey in No Way Home, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, we did this, we got him back. It's swinging the other way. People want new people. I don't know if it's time. I wouldn't be surprised on the opposite end of that if they're like, we got to put this to rest because this isn't working anymore as well as it was.
I would argue though, so many more people care about Spider-Man than the Spider-Verse stuff. I'm sorry. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact.
But like, Indiana Jones,
I will argue like modern audiences with Indiana Jones. I would make the same argument of like more people probably know and care about Spider-Man.
Listen, I know that the rest of my panel loves the Indiana Jones movies. I've seen 2 of them. Like I haven't seen all of them. Like I haven't. Like right. I wasn't going to go out to the theater to see. And also, they're not doing these movies any favors by scheduling them one after the other after the other. June was crazy, man. It was literally Spider-Verse, like The Flash, Transformers: Rise of the Beast, and then freaking Indiana Jones. Yeah. And I was like, dude, there's too much. I can't
happened in March as well.
$200 at the theater with me and Ariel. I can't do it,
You got to save it for Barbenheimer.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we went to Barbie on like the second or third day it was out. You could not get a seat here in LA for 2 days next to each other. We were supposed to go on Friday. That fell on its face. Like
it's easier to get tickets to Marvel movies now than it is to Barbie or Oppenheimer.
Dogs, I could walk up to Disneyland today and get it to Disneyland easier. And anyone who's in the comments that's tried to go to Disneyland in the last 2.5 years, you know how hard it is. They're only letting so many people in every day. It was stupid. I was like, what is going on? I'm like, this thing, I told Spencer Perry, our night editor at Comic Book, I'm like, Barbie is going to be the biggest selling thing this year. I think it's going to beat Mario, which is insane. And then what do we do with the fact that the only 2 things that made $1 billion are big toy thing everybody's winning their entire lives to see and big toy thing that everybody's winning their entire lives to see, which would also hinge on nostalgia, right? It's just you have to pick your spots.
I will say it's nostalgia for new things. It's nostalgia for like things that people are culturally aware of, but not necessarily like the same story that has extended over 10, 15, 20 movies or whatever. Like I think that is a huge part of it.
I agree with both of you, honestly. I think Jamie's points were Jamie and Jenna are both making very valid points. I think Aaron's point about people caring about Spider-Man is very valid. Like, I mean, you look at Top Gun. I honestly think it comes down to whether or not you just make a good movie. Yeah. Because Top Gun Maverick was great.
Maverick is better than the first one. Like,
Maverick is phenomenal. And that has all the nostalgia packed into it. Spider-Man No Way Home was like one of the best theatrical experiences. I have my nitpicks at the story. But it was such a fun time at the movies. And it felt like the first one to do it in this multiverse way. The Flash was fine. I like The Flash more than most people, but I don't think it was like memorable. I'm probably never going to watch it again. And Michael Keaton hasn't been Batman for 30 years. That's a really long time. Like at least Tobey Maguire was only like 15 years. So it's kind of cross-generational. I think there are more 15-year-olds today probably that have watched Tobey Maguire play Spider-Man than have watched Michael Keaton play Batman. I would place that bet. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I bet that a lot more people who are
Jamie's,
buying
like,
tickets
crying.
to movies have today.
Yeah, James' heart is
Jamie.
broken.
I know. Listen, we're all getting
Also,
old out here.
Like, this entire conversation is not even acknowledging Secret Wars. It's like, I think Secret Wars is going to be like the
100%.
end point to so much of this nostalgia stuff. Like, at this point, it's like, who knows when and how that movie is going to come out, but it feels like Tobey is a shoo-in to be in that movie. There are going to be so many nostalgic cameos in that movie, and I hope after that point we can kind of move on from this kind of trope. But I
What
don't
if Spider-Man 4 has Miles in it?
know.
What are you talking about? Like Toby's like the mentor Peter for him?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that would be great.
I
A
think
million
Andrew Garfield would be a
gajillion
better
dollars.
Miles mentor.
Yeah.
I think Andrew would be a better Miles mentor type character,
Mhm.
but Toby would be interesting.
Yeah.
I owe Jamie Foxx a black kid. Come on, kid. Let's go. Right?
I just think that the only way to make Secret Wars successful is if they make us care about another universe.
Mhm.
And for me, it's getting so late. And I don't see anything on the Marvel Studios slate that can do that. So if Sony will play ball, maybe Toby or Andrew's universes, and you develop them out a little bit more before that and make us care. Spider-Verse, hands down, made me care about multiple other universes more than anything the MCU has done so far. So we'll see. But the interesting comments from Thomas Hayden Church in that interview with Chris. Let's talk. Oh my gosh, we have been going and going. The Marvels dropped a trailer. What did you guys think of the Marvels trailer?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was excellent. I worked the night shift on Thursday nights, and so it was this nice surprise to just be like, oh, cool, there's actually something to cover in the last hour of my shift, because the countdown clock started on Marvel's YouTube page, and it was like, hell yes. I thought this trailer was really fun. It doesn't show too much. I thought the interplay between everybody was great, and it just showed Carol and her life and her personality. I tweeted about this. I love that she has dirty dishes and like weird stuff in her little spaceship. That just felt so nice to me. So this made me even more excited for the movie than I already was.
Jamie, what'd you think?
I'm so here for it. I'm like, I think it looks great, but I'm also like trying to lower expectations just for how this year has been for the most part, with the exception of Guardians, just in terms of Marvel content. But like, I'm excited about it. I'm sad that we're probably not going to get the press tour, but that's a whole other conversation. I think it looks great.
I thought this trailer was much better than the first one, even though it wasn't even that different. I just liked it so much more. Aaron, what'd you think?
I would like to echo what everybody else has said. Of course, this is my most anticipated live action one of the year, so I'm of course very, very excited. I am super sad, Jamie. My girl would have had such a year if this strike ain't happened. Like, they clone Tyrone is so good. I know most of you are watching Barbie Oppenheimer. They clone Tyrone is amazing. You go watch that. And this movie would have been so huge for her. But I'm ecstatic, and I'm also, because of how this summer has gone, thank Jesus they moved this thing to November now.
Yes.
Because the next 3 weeks are going to be Barbie Mania. Like, I don't know. So, like, Seth Rollins going to come out in all pink at SummerSlam because of this. Like, I don't know. So I am really excited. I am intrigued at how it's going to take off of what we just watched, too, now as well.
I gotta say, based on what the ending of Secret Invasion you just referenced, Secret Invasion just was so clearly, like, it wasn't this adults only show. It wasn't Daredevil from Netflix and the Defenders, but it was hands down the most mature thing they've done on Disney Plus. And going from that to what appears to be the tone of the Marvels seems to be much more like geared towards younger audiences and kids, and light and more playful. To me, I'm just, I really love this mature tone. I'm real curious how they're going to take that story and take it into the Marvels and how the tones will compare. But I thought this trailer was much better. My biggest issue is that Kamala is the character I care about hands down the most. And I think that's because, like, I really buy into characters who have interesting relationships with other characters. And I don't really feel like Carol and Monica have that in the MCU just yet. I think maybe the pre-existing relationship with Carol and Monica's mom could be an interesting factor between them. But I feel like the first Iron Man movie, like Tony fighting Obadiah, wouldn't have been as interesting if him and Pepper didn't have this unsung or like unspoken love for each other. Same with Star-Lord and Gamora. And I think a lot of those sort of like really important relationships, or even like Spider-Verse, Miles and Gwen and Peter B. Parker, and these people who really care about each other. would love to see Carol and Monica get thrown into more like dynamic, complex relationships where we get to root for them and hope for the sake of them and the people around them, they get to succeed and survive and all that stuff. And it's not just this bland save the world from the Kree story. I feel like we've kind of lost sight of that in some projects lately.
I think the dynamic will be a huge part of it, because it's like Carol left and Monica still is clearly bitter about that. Like in WandaVision, that felt like a through line. And we see in the trailer, like Carol is keeping newspaper clippings of Monica and Maria. So it's like she's keeping tabs on them. She's just not physically there. And so I like the fact that they have not this very close relationship, but they used to have it, because then it makes the trio not just this perfect happy family. Like there's going to be some like squabbling, and I'm very excited to see like how that works and how they overcome it.
Brandon Davis outing our secret like romance podcast that we host on the side with all these romantic pairings that he just listed out.
Yeah.
But
I'm a shipper.
I really do think that they are going to shine a light on that. Jenna was the one who pointed out the clippings, because I didn't catch that the first time, and I was like, oh yeah, we're going to totally. And anytime anybody has a conversation in front of a window with rain, that means we're going to emotional time. Like 100%.
Yeah, I thought the trailer was good. It made the new trailer paired with the ending of Secret Invasion successfully got me even more interested in the Marvels. So good work, marketing machine. Anything else we want to say on the Marvels front? All right, one last thing here before we get to Secret Invasion. WandaVision is releasing a steelbook, but not what you think. This went viral this week. I was pissed off, and then I kind of calmed down when I saw the truth of it. But there's a WandaVision steelbook. It's being released by this third-party company. I forget what the company's called.
Manta Lab.
Manta Lab. They're releasing 1,250 of these, but they don't come with the disc. It's just a bunch of art, and it's like almost $40.
When I thought this was Marvel, I was livid. I was about to go on the biggest Jamie rant of the history of Phase Zero, but it's not, so who cares? It's not an official Marvel thing. Maybe Marvel will see how all of us reacted and think, maybe it's time we put WandaVision on 4K because people will buy it. But this is some BS nonsense, nothing. Doesn't even matter.
Part of me wonders if the reason these aren't getting released on Steelbook or DVD or Blu-ray or 4K is because of the residual aspect of it, or the contracts. Like, were these just like contracts that were signed for exclusively for Disney Plus, and if they release them, they'll have to pay the actors and the filmmakers even more? I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if that's a part of it. But I mean, I watched an interview. I think it was an older interview, but I think I talked about this on the show. Matt Damon talked about how like movie budgets are having a harder time because one huge element of revenue is just slashed now because people aren't buying physical media, and there used to be the box office, and then there would be the home release, and then there would be on demand and streaming. And now the home release, which used to be one of the huge parts of the revenue stream, was gone. Put this out there, man. Anybody who's going to, I know I've said this, anybody who's going to buy a year's old Marvel title for $40 just to put it in their collection is not going to cancel their subscription when there's another project coming out. We're big enough fan to want to collect it. We're a big enough fan to want to see the next project. Release the physical media. Stop changing the shows after the fact. I'm getting pissed.
I will say to your point about residuals, because like we talked about this last week with Miss Marvel airing on ABC, and it's like even Secret Invasion on Hulu. I'm like, I don't know how that works with regards to the residuals. So I'm sure with streaming, the legality and the contracts are so much more different than we would probably expect. I know even Stephen DeKnight, who worked on the Netflix Daredevil, was saying like he is currently like litigating to get the residuals on Disney Plus. So I'm sure that is such a huge part of it, which is kind of unfortunate.
Well, I think it was who's the guy from The Office? Plays Roy. But he was on one of the SAGs. He was talking at one of the SAG strikes, saying that like you would think because the actors are on The Office,
David
and The Office.
Denman.
Yes, David Denman. He was talking about how The Office was like the top-rated show on Netflix, and now it's one of the top-rated shows on Peacock. But the way they get out of paying residuals is they have to pay residuals when it airs on cable, but then they license it out. And when you license it out, the ratings don't matter. It's just a paid for license up front. And so the studio makes all that money. So I'm curious, is this a thing where like Disney now just has this. I guess I don't know. They own it already, but technically Universal owns Peacock, so I don't know how it all works. It does seem like there are some details to all the legalities and the contracts and the agreements and the residuals and the money and all of that could tie this up. But I wish they would just figure it out and release these things on physical media. And I also think that's going to be more likely as time goes on, because they're going to need new streams of revenue. I think the streaming wars have ended up costing all of the streamers more money than they thought they would. So anyway, on that note, we're going to talk about a streaming show in 1 minute. Secret Invasion released its final episode, and we're going to dissect this finale, this series, all 6 episodes, especially this last 37 minutes, in just a minute. Spoilers ahead. See you there. Phase Zero Season 3 Episode 30 continues right now. And this is the Secret Invasion series finale and series review breakdown spoiler cast. Full spoilers for Secret Invasion start right now. If you have not yet watched Secret Invasion Episode 6 and all 5 episodes before it, this is your chance to hop off the Phase Zero podcast, go watch it, and come back. All right, Jamie, you're at the top of the screen. What do you think of the Secret Invasion finale?
Oh boy. I think in the end I probably liked this more than most people, but I think overall it was definitely a disappointment. I think this episode, like every episode, the thing I love about this show is the rich scene work. They're just great written scenes with amazing performances, and that's what this comes down to. When it comes to the bigger picture, a lot was left to be desired. I think that the idea I don't like that the harvest exists because but it was fun to see. I like being like, look at that arm, that's fun. But it was like, is Gaia the most powerful being in the universe now? Okay. That all of that is kind of, I don't like that they didn't specifically tell us how long Rhodey has been a Skrull. I mean, we can guess. They made it seem like it's been a long time. I don't like the idea that it's been since Endgame for a lot of reasons, but mainly because if he was a Skrull in Endgame, I would bet money that that's a retcon and that Cheadle did not know when he was making Endgame, and that bothers me because he has Jenna. Do you have
there's already people who are saying he bleeds in Endgame and the blood is red because they obviously didn't think this far out. So it's like people are waiting for like Endgame to be edited on Disney Plus to now have purple blood or something. Like, and then that just infuriates me that we're at
yes. That bothers me, especially because that's not fair to Cheadle. He's been playing this character for 13 years, and I think to like retcon one of his like big performances, like all of his scenes with Nebula like are really deeply personal, and I don't like that. If they had known, that's different, but that's a bummer. Other than that, Olivia Colman is amazing. I want more of her. I'm desperately give me a scene with her and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I can die happy. A lot of people are saying the show's boring. I don't agree with that. I didn't think it was boring. But I would say then I will move on to somebody else talking. One thing I'm so happy about is that Nick Fury kissed his wife when she was in her Skrull form, because you guys know that was upsetting me. I'm really glad it was addressed, and I'm glad that it wrapped up nicely and romantically, and I'm glad that we're going to see her, I assume, in the Marvels. I think it'd be crazy if we didn't at this point.
Yeah, that would be really weird. But then again, I thought we'd see Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange after he left the movie with Wong, and that didn't happen. So who knows?
Well,
Jenna, what'd you think?
Here's my biggest takeaway, which was Ghost was at the Battle of Endgame and we had no idea. Like that, I like leapt out of my chair. I'm like, what? Like you deliberately showed her name first and then had her use ghost powers. And I'm like, where was she? Was she just off frame the entire time? This is like major information to me. The rest of the finale was just okay. There were bits of it that I enjoyed. There were a lot of decisions where I'm like, you're not making the worst possible decision, but you're making like the decision I expected you to make. Like I had kind of hinted earlier, the Hellfire Gala one shot already annoyed me so much. So this was the second weirdest thing Marvel put out today. So, but it's just, it's okay. I didn't love it. I'm a little disappointed. We'll get into why.
I see a comment that if Rhodey was able to walk without assistance in Endgame, then he was a Skrull in the film. But he had the leg braces on that helped him walk.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's just that's the kind of detail that seems to have been one of those overlooked things. I mean, Aaron, sorry, we'll get to Aaron in just a second, but I have to say this before I forget it. The comparison I want to make here is like, I don't really like revisionist stories when you're in a franchise that has such a rich history where we are proud, like we enjoy it for the connectivity and the through lines and the details like that. And they're not going to be perfect. I get that. Like they didn't write Endgame when they wrote Iron Man. I know. But so like in Infinity War, when Gamora had that little blade from Thanos and it seemed like a really, really, really important thing to her about balance and her father and all this stuff. And that wasn't in the first two Guardians movies. I was just like, it would have been really cool if that was in the first two Guardians movies, but this isn't some kind of deal-breaking detail that like, I never saw this thing before, so I can't accept that it's here. But if Rhodey was a Skrull when Tony Stark died, that just really changes things, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. And maybe that's why they didn't explain it, because we would nitpick it and say like, but what about this scene? What about the scene where he reunited with the Avengers in Infinity War? What about this or that? Why did he So I really think this show suffered by not having a very definitive reveal of when and how Rhodey became a Skrull. I really wanted to see that. I thought we were going to, and I was very disappointed that we didn't. I thought it was stupid that the first thing Everett Ross said was, "How long have you been here?" and not "Where the hell are we?" But anyway, Aaron, what did you think of this?
Of course, this wasn't as high on my ratings according to this as you guys, so I'm probably going to be like out the frame different. To piggyback on what Brandon just said before I lose the thread, that is one of the things I asked myself as this thing was ending, is that because it was 6 episodes, the economy of time is so important, right? But there's a real argument to be made that like episode 3 and 4, somewhere in there, you could have truncated 2 episodes together, hit me with episode 4, and episode 4 is just when the heck did they take Rhodey from? And it would have changed the entire reaction to this. I think when they're planning these things out, God bless, and this is going to be kind of mean to some of the listeners, but I'm going to say it anyway. They overestimate how much the casual fan of this stuff really has the patience for big long-term reveals. I think that with the attention to detail in this society, in the sort of like information processing and whatever else, we've learned, if I've learned nothing else through phase 4 and what we've had at phase 5 so far, is that you kind of have to give them stuff faster. You cannot just keep the horse has to go back in the barn in one of these, to quote Emily Vanderwolf, who said that for AV Club after WandaVision. I did enjoy it. It's not my favorite thing. There was some weird weaknesses. I love the people who were complaining about Super Skrull not having enough powers after episode, what was that, 3 or 4 when grabbing it? Well, you got it now. You sure? Yeah. You got it now. The Super Skrull that's running, the one that's running around the MCU is way more powerful than even some of the ones that was in the comic. So it's just kind of interesting. I also, unfortunately, I'm going to put a lot of our fan base on probation because y'all said y'all want this grounded, realistic thing, and they built it and no one came. And that makes me kind of sad. So I'm probably going to ignore some of the big ass out of people like I said, we were joking around about Deadpool 3, y'all not real. So, yeah, that's where I'm coming from. I love to talk about the guy of it all and some of the other stuff too. So, yeah.
I liked Secret Invasion. I thought it was fine. After the first 2 episodes and how big of an idea it seemed to be, and let alone how great and massive the comic story is, but I just never expected that. But after the first 2 episodes, I thought this was going to be this sprawling, claustrophobic, political thriller, and it just didn't get there. it really, first of all, the fake death pisses me off. Not like, it's one thing to have a fake death. I hate those. They don't work for me. I don't like them. They're all too common in these sorts of media. But not only did the fake death not work for me, the fact that Gaia had the fake death at the end of episode 3 and then was revealed to be alive at the end of episode 4 meant that we never mourned Talos. It was just like, this dude's not dead. Like, I honestly never had the thought at the end of episode 4 that Talos was dead. And he was.
Yep.
He just was never coming back. And the show just moved right past it. What's up?
I feel like what bothers me is that 2 episodes ended on those death cliffhangers, and that made them feel more cheap. And that's why I keep thinking that, like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think Secret Invasion would have benefited more as a movie. I think it would have been a stronger movie, and I think it's because I don't like that the 2 of our main characters died that way, and then a third character, Fake Out, died that way. That's more than half. That is half the episodes that end that way, and I think that's like a total bummer. I don't mind character death if it's done well. And sometimes it's not done well. But in these ones, it's like, if they had died, I would have been okay with it if it wasn't for like end of episode shock value.
I just needed Deadpool to show up and acknowledge the fact that they didn't have any other Avengers in this for budget reasons. Like, it just was.
That's so true.
You know,
okay,
that's really true.
I just want to say, budget reasons. This show cost $211 million to make.
Yep.
To put to wrap your head around that is 2 Oppenheimers plus 1 original Star Wars movie. That's how much this show costs to make. Why?
As an aside, that did come from the Mirror's reporting, so we don't know. But it's obviously that last fight was expensive. Like, listen here, that last fight is a lot of cheddar. That's like half a Kylian Mbappe contract on screen right there. I don't know where all the VFX couldn't have been that expensive. Also, I think, Jamie, that some of that budget came from them reshooting stuff, because there were things in the trailer that did not happen in this show, and not in the Hulk running in Wakanda way.
Yeah,
like, there were a lot of reshoots on this one. I think that world events kind of compromised this too, because there's a line in here that's, I'm like, oh, so this is why we couldn't promo this thing at all before right now. Huh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They had the best luck possible with the rollout of WandaVision, and some of these other ones, they got really, really bad rolls of the dice. Like, you know.
But what do we think of that? I mean, I watched a YouTube breakdown this morning of somebody talking about this, and the ongoing rumor is that there was a storyline involving Russia and Ukraine, which was a line.
There's a line in there.
Yeah. Yes, that made it into this episode. Much like there's the rumor that seems fairly believable, at least, about Falcon and Winter Soldier that had a pandemic storyline that was cut, that was reshot and removed because of the pandemic. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a person who needs to see that stuff removed. Like, it's not going to fix the world. It's not going to make me feel better about world events or worse about world events to see a coincidental story in fictional media. Now, maybe that's case by case. I shouldn't necessarily say that's universal, but I think if you have a good story that happens to have some things that are falling in line with something terrible happening in the world, I don't know. I don't think you need to remove it. It's fiction. Sometimes, I don't know. Am I alone in that? Am I being insensitive? I don't know.
I remember, I think it was after the Uvalde shooting, there was like Obi-Wan Kenobi and like maybe 2, it was Stranger Things, like maybe one other show had to put disclaimers in front of their newest episodes that aired like a week or 2 after, because they had like scenes involving children in like scenes of distress. So it's like, at very least, if you are going to recognize like, oh, this would have been really accidentally relevant, you can at least like acknowledge it that way and still keep it as part of the story, because it does feel like huge chunks of this show are just missing. Like, even the more that I've thought about it, even the scene with like Fury and Mason in the last episode, I'm like, I don't even think they were in the same room as each other. It just looks like they shot this in 2 completely different ways.
The stuff with the president, like, I thought that room looked so cheap. Like, when they were all standing in front of the TV screen, I thought that just to me, that just felt like they just set up a set as fast as they could and put a fake TV on the wall and just put these actors in there to just get this cranked out and finished. But I mean, listen, all that said, I still enjoyed the dialogue on this show. Was fantastic. Some of the directorial choices were very good, especially early on. I didn't hate the fight at the end. I do think it's a little ridiculous that Gaia is so like the hands down single most powerful entity in the Marvel Cinematic Universe now. I love that it's Emilia Clarke playing that part, but I am like, all right, where does this go? What?
I think, and Jenna, you can ask me if I'm crazy because we've talked about this at length. I think I know exactly why they did that. And it is because they have this lingering thing in the air that if they're going to introduce the X-Men and you have Carol flying around, one of the X-Men has to have powers from Captain Marvel. And how do you have that if you have to have her get her powers siphoned away? Why not have Emilia Clarke's character have her powers get sectioned away by Rogue when they get introduced? And that's how you would introduce her. I think that's probably a lot of it. Also, just signing up Emilia Clarke that you can summon her down from Olympus like that to do stuff is cool. And she has all the powers and she's just like wish fulfillment, the character, which is great. I have no problem with it. And I think that's it. And I think that unfortunately, one of the Aaron recurring bits, this is the bad thing that happens if you watch this show a lot. The Aaron recurring bits come home to roost in unintended, terrible ways. I'm like, it's me and Bill Oakley in a room. Like, I can't believe this. Why does this keep happening? The Wheel of Evil Ladies is literally just Thunderbolts the movie at this point. Yeah. I think that's what's happening. It's going to be like all women, like fatal four-way for whatever's going on. And then our buddy, our buddy looking around like, I'm not Glenn, I'm the Sentry. What's going on? That seems to be what the movie is going to be. Because where else are all these women that are evil with access to grind and needs for resources going to pop up against each other at all again? Like, I know we joke around. They're like, well, Thunderbolt's going to have all these people in it. I'm like, it better. I don't know where else. I think that's where I'm drawing the line where some of the horses have to go back in the barn for me. I'm like, I'm willing to give a lot of this stuff a lot of leeway. If some of this stuff isn't addressed by then, okay, I'll start listening to people.
See, I was less optimistic than Aaron was. I like with everything with Gaia and like, oh, this could lead to Rogue, this could lead to whatever. I was not even thinking that. I was like, I don't know when and if I will ever see Gaia again. And that's kind of sad. And it's also on top of that, I wanted to see who her human equivalent was. Like, not even the Abigail Brand of it all. I wanted, because it's like we had that entire scene and you could have had a really sweet moment of like her human self and like her just like side by side or something, because now she's still operating as that human. And it's like, is it a thing like what Gravik said of like, oh, the face that I'm assuming is the first person I killed? Like, is that person dead or is this something that we're just not acknowledging? Because I was like, I felt robbed of that moment. I really wanted to see that moment.
I thought the same thing. And like, and it'd be fine if she was dead, but like, tell us, you know.
Yeah.
And for what Aaron said, I love this theory, but I also feel like I don't think they're thinking that far ahead.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
really don't.
Exactly. Everything. I feel like everything with X-Men is just broad strokes at this point. Like, we are so far away from any of that being a reality in live action.
The MCU just doesn't seem to be thinking ahead like that anymore in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we don't. Like I said, I'm withholding. Like, once Thunderbolts comes out and it's just David Harbour chuckling at us for 2 hours, feel free to come dunk on my head in the comments. Please do. I'm fine with it. But like, I'm like, where else could they all pop up? I'm sitting there. I'm like, this is the only answer. Like,
Well, here's part of what I think has happened with some of the disconnect. Like, we've kind of talked about this to lay it all out. I mean, like you just said, we don't know where we're going to see Gaia again. We don't know where we're going to see Moon Knight again. We don't know where we're going to see Shang-Chi again. We don't know where we're going to see Spider-Man again. We don't know where we're going to see Thor again. We don't, like, there's so many characters from the past 60 hours of content that we don't know where we're going to see them again. She-Hulk, when's She-Hulk going to show up again? Who knows? The only characters like that were introduced in Phase 4 and 5 so far that we know when we're going to see them again are a variant of Kang is going to show up in Loki, and Miss Marvel is going to be in the Marvels. There's a couple. Red Guardian Yelena will be in Thunderbolts, but like, where is Kay Bishop going to be? Where is Clint Barton going to be? There's just so much going on, and all of them have pretty interesting stories. Nick Fury's story is pretty interesting, and thankfully we know that that's going to pay off later this year. But there's so many stories going on that they're all spread out and they're all happening at the same time. So I think when people say like, well, Phase 1 was this building phase, Phase 4 is just like that. Phase 1 felt more connected and more shared. I definitely feel like Phase 1 had way more of a through line. It felt way more connected. And I think that is really because they were doing less and it was easier to have the actors show up in each other's projects, even if it was just a little bit. Yes, Yelena showed up in Hawkeye and we've had different people pop up in different things, but I think literally they just did too much to put them all together. Like they're telling all these stories, and the cast members can't be in all these things at once, and the writers can't write all these things at once. So there's like 6, 7, a dozen different, very interesting stories happening in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, which ultimately ends up, to me, feeling a little bit frustrating because none of them are paying off yet, despite seeing so much new stuff in the MCU. But I think it's because they're happening all at once instead of just a couple of really good stories being told. There's too many stories of varying level of quality being told at the same time.
I that's why I said think about, you cannot take for granted that the people are just going to be able to pay attention. Like attention spans are so bad. Like you spend 2 seconds on TikTok and you see like, yo, we cooked. Like you have to have stuff.
That's totally true.
Bookends things.
Yeah.
Like you have to. And I don't know if they knew that beforehand. I think they had too much faith in us. That's what I think. I'm like, I think they had too much faith in the general populace. Because I'm like, if I had known, like if future Aaron runs back after falling in love with a girl and then creating an evil variant that's going to kill everybody, like I would be like, they have to make an Avengers at the end of this after Wakanda Forever or whatever, or else your job's going to be really hard. You're going to be really bummed out. Brandon's going to grow a mustache. Like there'll be no Comic-Con. Jamie will yell about a steelbook that doesn't come out. You have to change the future. It's not going to, I think they had way too much faith in everybody. That's really, I'm like, and that's on us too. Because, like, you even had people last night talking about Quake is going to show up. I'm like, baby, that's not going to happen. If they even land the boat, it's going to be an accomplishment. We certainly ain't getting her in here.
Attention spans are definitely way more limited now. And I agree. I'm included in that. I know I'm guilty of that. I'm not going to lie to you. I know I'm guilty of that. But that said, we have more MCU content since Endgame than we did leading up to Endgame in 11 years. In what has it been? 2.5?
Mm-hmm.
We have more, and it's so much more spread out and less connected, which is not a huge problem. Each individual project, there hasn't been anything that I've walked out of and like, that was terrible. There a lot of things I've been like, well, that was just okay at best. And a couple things or more than a couple things that I thought were fantastic that I really want to see continue. But it just seems there's too much to really know what's going on.
Off of that, like I wrote an article on the website, which like, who boy, some troll coming out of work about this article. I basically wrote like what Barbie does and what it is successful about it, and like what superhero movies could learn from that. And like a huge thing to me is just, I feel like Barbie and Oppenheimer both have been so successful because they are just a singular movie. Like you can just sit down and watch the one movie and walk out of it and be very satisfied by what you saw. You don't have to have any prior knowledge. You are just enjoying the thing for what it is. And I feel like the MCU in particular is so far away from that. Even the best projects like still are trying to set up something else and still are predicated on something else. And that is inherently very alienating. And then you have projects like Secret Invasion and projects like Quantumania where it's like, oh, this is good, but it feels like it's just teasing something bigger later on.
Could
I
you
think
imagine?
that is just, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You should just be making one really good movie or one really good show in the moment and acting as if this is the last opportunity you have to tell your story, as opposed to we're not only going to keep it going and we're still like, because for me, one of the most interesting parts of the episode was like in the last 5 minutes when they show all of the people just like going crazy over Ritzen's order to just kill the Skrulls. Like that is what the entire show should have been. I know. Okay. I was going to ask about that. Do we think the Asgardians count in that? Because.
Oh, they do. 100%. I feel like that feeds into the Thunderbolt stuff too, because it's like Valkyries has liaison with the government. It like literally, that's the way they get out of this. Like I feel for the guy who made Beef, who's writing this freaking movie right now, because they've given him too much to do. Like it's so much that this one movie has resting on it instead of like being spread out over a bunch of stuff.
Could you guys imagine if Secret Invasion was like the pinnacle of Phase 4?
Mm-hmm.
If they had little seeds planted through each one and they took a little bit more time to get to the end of Phase 4. But the problem is you couldn't do that because you couldn't film Black Panther Wakanda Forever and have Shuri both be a main player in that and then be a big player in the next Avengers Secret Invasion movie. You couldn't have Shang-Chi do that. And like all these actors who were making the movies and the shows then also go on to be part of the Secret Invasion story. Now the Secret Invasion story just in no way feels like an event when it could have been the culmination of Phase 4 and sent us into this crazy new direction with Phase 5 and the multiverse being blown open and all that stuff, and also planting the seeds for the multiverse, because you had like, I mean, I don't know. Age of Ultron wasn't exactly planned in advance, but Civil War certainly had the seed laid out through Age of Ultron and the rivalries being built out and the mistakes being made by the Avengers. Like, that made sense. It all added up to lead to Civil War, and it was believable, even though I'll still always say Tony's turn was a little sharp, but I'm Team Iron Man because I love my guy. But it just all made sense. You understood every character's motivation, and you understood how the MCU got there. With Secret Invasion, we could have had that. It feels like a missed opportunity. As fine as this show was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it much more than I didn't. I think I'm still just like the overall disappointment I'm feeling by the lack of event nature and the lack of through line, the lack of connectivity is starting to get to me. And I don't know. I think this could have, like, this one is leading straight into the Marvels, which is great. And I hope that movie's awesome. I'll be there day one. But yeah, I don't know. I just wish Secret Invasion would have felt like a bigger, and maybe, who knows? Listen, also, maybe the Marvels does have a big Secret Invasion element to it, and they've just been keeping it a secret for the sake of getting through this show, but it doesn't seem to yet.
I will, like, there's a version of this show where you kept a lot of the same elements and you just called it Secret Warriors, and it would have been a better show. Because I honestly think the expectation of the comic event kind of clouded a lot of people's expectations and judgment of the show itself. And I think that that is part of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Not calling it Secret Invasion and not doing the book was.
I would caution everybody too that we work ourselves into a shoot so often in this fandom, in any fandom, in anything that you care about. You work yourself into a shoot so quickly. The second it had that title, people had all these expectations. But like we just noticed, you knew they weren't going to be able to pay all these people to be in it. Like, if you think about it, the really crazy, amazing Marvel cameos from the early first of the MCU is before everybody's budgets and like their salaries ballooned. Like having Chris Evans pop up in Thor is like a completely different ball game than Chris Evans popping up in anything else by the time he's done. Like,
but that doesn't mean I want the lesser project because they can't afford it.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, some of the stuff that's further down the line, I would have pushed to the front. Once we figured out what we were doing, I would have pushed it to the front. I'd have been like, well, we released that. Now I would just push it to the back. Because
that's fair.
Like, I don't know. Like, I laugh too because I don't think that all the delays are going to help what everybody's feeling right now anyway, because that means it's longer to get to the resolution.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, we're being very critical, and I am critical. I do have criticisms that I do feel pretty strongly about, but overall, I agree with Mikey Root's comment on the YouTube comment section. Everybody who's watching, thanks for comments, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for all the thumbs up you're dropping for us. But they could have just called this show Fury, and I probably would have even liked it a little bit more, just because I think it is impossible to not go into these things with a certain expectation based on our knowledge of books, our constant, observations of the MCU, our conversations, our theories, all that stuff. But then again, the show was just fine to me. It was fine. The episodes 3, 4, and 5 felt like they were kind of spinning their wheels a little bit. It really got indulgent on the Rhodey twist, which was great. I enjoyed that, but it didn't reward us for it. It didn't do what you guys said earlier of showing us when and how it happened. And that would have gone such a long way for a story that line that they spent 3 episodes really thinking was like such a shocking moment, but it was so heavy-handed in the first 2 episodes that we were like, if you listen to Phase Zero a few weeks ago, we were like, it's so obvious Rhodey's a Skrull, he can't be. And then he was. And they didn't tell us how.
Brandon, to your point, they already paid Don Cheadle. You could have did it already. That's not what we're talking about. That's the problem with me. I'm like,
yeah.
If you would sacrifice one episode where you get the Monica Rambeau, half of it is just explaining what happened when he got taken. And also, isn't it like a clip show or a bottle episode then too? Because then you just take stuff from like Avengers Endgame and Civil War and maybe Iron Man 2 and stitch it all together with a little bit of previs or whatever to put him back in it to like kind of give you the breadcrumbs. It would have served 2 purposes. So that's the sort of stuff that I'm like, that's a missed opportunity. You don't have to pay freaking Simu Liu to show up with his wonderful, wonderful abs and do anything. Like he could have, like that's you already had him there. That's weird. Also, I feel terrible for Jamie because couldn't this have used a little bit more Olivia Colman?
Yes. Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? Of course I could have used more Olivia Colman.
Everything.
Every moment she was in the show, she was chewing and owning it, and it was like she's like, "This is my show, by the way." But yeah, there was one episode she wasn't even in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when she called fake Rhodey, I was like, "Oh my god, are we only gonna see her hear her in this episode, but then we saw her, just kind of standing there, but at least she was there. I do want to I love Dermot Mulroney so much, and I bet he had fun just getting wheeled around.
Yeah.
Like, good for him.
Sure thought that guy was dying. I thought President Ritson was close because
I really liked that Fury made the one-term president comment, because we know that Harrison Ford's coming in and going to be the new president. So I was shocked he lived, but I actually think it's even funnier, more powerful. That he's like, you're out voting. You didn't die. They just don't want you back.
Overall, in the end, I'm at about like a 6.5 out of 10 for this show. That's kind of where I'm sitting with it.
I would say about the same, like a 6 or a 6.5.
I go on the 5 scale, so I would say I'm a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm about at a 3. That's fine. It was cool. I liked all the stuff, the weird, like, heady stuff in the background, like the dropping the poetry and like getting to write all the other weird stuff about passing and like immigrant dynamics and code switching and stuff like that, which is wonderful, but in like this really kind of clumsy kind of way. So I don't know. Loki, once again.
I can't wait for Loki. Loki. Yeah, overall, it seems like we all kind of enjoyed Secret Invasion. We all had similar, but yet a little bit different expectations, and none of them were met. And it just was, it's a fine show. It was okay. It came and went, and we're on to the next, is what it seems like. That said, I'm interviewing director Uli Salim later today, who directed all 6 episodes of Secret Invasion. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to send them my way from the comment section. You can send them to me at Brandon Davis BD on Twitter, or on X, of course. Oh my God. What a stupid, absolutely horrifically stupid decision that was.
Get it together, Threads. We need you.
Oh my God. I honestly, Threads was so fun for like 20 minutes, and now I just don't care about it.
Yeah.
Like, if they would just have
get the features going. I can't rely on that man anymore for our job. We got to get off this app immediately. It's killing me.
Oh, look, that's like if Marvel was like, oh, well, people haven't been watching as much in 2023. Let's call ourselves Wall. What? What? Okay. Anyway, Jenna, any last words for today's show?
I'm at Hey It's Jenna Lynn on whatever social media websites exist and whatever we are calling them. As always, go read some comics, go watch some movies. I do acknowledge that its finale basically became what She-Hulk was making fun of in its finale. I've seen so many tweets acknowledging that. I just need to call that out because that made me kind of delighted of Jennifer Walters being right. So
Kevin wrote it himself. And we said we're trying to avoid AI writers. Aaron?
It's at Something Like Hornet on Twitter, as I will keep calling it in protest. I would say go back and rewatch Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk for the people who really didn't like those 2 shows and be like, hey, you know what? it wasn't what we thought it was going to be. So that's fun.
Our multiverse saga rankings, when we're all still together hosting Phase Zero in 2028, are gonna be insane.
Even our end of the year rankings, I am like so excited and terrified.
Oh yeah, what are we supposed to do this year? It doesn't make any sense.
I know. I already know mine. Mine are so easy. They write that. I feel like I feel like we're all gonna be pretty similar with just a rotating top 2.
Craven at number 1.
Yeah. Rotating 2 and 3 because I forgot Craven's this year. I was thinking of the projects that are out so far. Wait, so who has? Okay, so Jenna gave last word. Aaron, have you said goodbye yet? Yeah. Aaron, Jamie's so I'm the type of person who'll be in the middle of taking a shower and I'm like, wait a second, did I wash my hair yet?
Wash my hair? Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah. Been there.
Aaron?
Nope, it's me.
No, it's Jamie.
Jamie. You know what? I'm out. Everybody,
Richard switching back and forth is excellent right now. Oh my God.
Richard, any last words for today's show?
All right. I'm going. I just want to say that I think we can officially retire our favorite term, which is the movies are back, because they are back. I not only did I do Barbenheimer this weekend, but I saw Theater Camp at theaters, loved it. I saw Joyride in theaters, loved it. I couldn't believe how packed Joyride was on a Monday during Barbenheimer. Like seeing the sea of pink at all at the multiple theaters I was at this weekend. It's beautiful. It makes me so happy. But do remember there are other movies out other than Barbenheimer. They Clone Tyrone. I also watched on Netflix. There's a lot of good stuff out in theaters right now. It's awesome. So excited about it. Also, you guys know that I do have the obligatory one sitting Secret Invasion binge on my schedule. So by the time we were back next week, I will have more thoughts about what it was like to watch Secret Invasion in one sitting. Otherwise, Letterboxd is the only app I care about anymore. Jamie Cinematics. But on my Instagram, I am posting a lot of Haunted Mansion interviews right now, and I also all my Barbie interviews are up. But Haunted Mansion's coming, so keep an eye. Jamie Girac on Instagram. I think everyone talked.
Yay!
That is our Secret Invasion recap episode. Thank you for listening. Shout out to Kingsley Benadir for a great performance in this finale that we did not mention, and I want to give him a quick shout. Also, shout out to Richard behind the scenes who busted his ass at Comic-Con to help me get so much great content filmed. That filmed all the interviews Jim and I did, and that's our show, everybody. Also, shout out to Peter who's working on today's show, who helped distribute all the content from San Diego Comic-Con, and the whole team that helped that wasn't in San Diego and did a great job helping that get out there. I just want to thank everybody for that. And everybody who watched it and subscribes to Phase Zero and thumbs ups our video and Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you're watching. Love you if you're in your car, if you're on your lunch break. We went a little bit over an hour. Get back to work. All right, guys. See you next week.